Self-sufficient. Samantataha, Bhati, maintains. Vayaturam, who is very afraid. Janam, a person. Saha, therefore he. Tataha, one. Eva, only. Itarata, otherwise. Nitaha, from one another. Bhayam, fear. Na, not. Eva, indeed. Atmalabha, then the attainment of you. Ati, greater. Manyate, is accepted. Param, other thing. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. He alone who is never afraid, but who on the contrary gives complete shelter to all fearful persons, can actually become a husband and protector. Therefore, my Lord, you are the only husband, and no one else can claim this position. If you were not the only husband, you would be afraid of others. Therefore, persons learned in all Vedic literatures accept only your lordship as everyone's master, and they think no one else a better husband and protector than you. Purport. Here is the meaning of husband or guardian, clearly explained. People want to become a husband, a guardian, a governor, or a political leader without knowing the actual meaning of such superior position. There are many people all over the world, indeed throughout the universe, who claim for some time that they are husbands, political leaders, or guardians. But in due course of time, the Supreme Lord desires their removal from their posts, and their careers are immediately finished. Therefore, those who are actually learned and advanced in spiritual life do not accept any leader, husband or maintainer, other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna personally states in Bhagavad Gita 1866, Aham tvam sarvapabhebhyo mokshayishyami. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Krishna is not afraid of anyone. On the contrary, everyone is afraid of Krishna. Therefore, he can actually give protection to a subordinate living entity. Since so-called leaders or dictators are completely under the control of material nature, they can never give complete protection to others, although they claim this ability due to false prestige. Nate vidu svartakatim vivishnu. People do not know that real advancement in life consists of accepting the Supreme Personality of Godhead as one's master. Instead of deceiving themselves and others by pretending to be all-powerful, all political leaders, husbands and guardians should spread the Krishna consciousness movement so that everyone can learn how to surrender to Krishna, the Supreme Husband. Translation again. He alone who is never afraid, but who on the contrary gives complete shelter to all fearful persons, can actually become a husband and protector. Therefore, my Lord, you are the only husband, and no one else can claim this position. If you were not the only husband, you would be afraid of others. Therefore, persons learned in all Vedic literatures accept only your lordship as everyone's master, and they think no one else a better husband and protector than you. You can read the translation responsibly. He alone who is never afraid, but who, on the contrary, gives complete shelter to all fearful persons, can actually become a husband and protector. Therefore, my Lord, you are the only husband, and no one else can claim this position. If you were not the only husband, you would be afraid of others. Therefore, persons learned in all Vedic literature accept only your lordship as everyone's master. And they think no one else a better husband and protector than you. Hare Krishna. So this concept of protection is very important. At the end of the Bhagavad Gita, in the 18th chapter, 66th verse, Krishna says that everyone will be protected from all kinds of fear if they worship Krishna. Fear is the thing that everyone is afraid of. It's been said, I read somewhere, that speaking in public is more fearful than the fear of death. Of course, I don't know if that's true, because Prabhupada said that fear of death is the ultimate fear. Everyone has to die at some point. The people are always afraid of this. So sometimes Krishna protects us in a very dramatic way. I think we heard once that Prabhupada said that there was a train accident, the two trains collided, and that he wasn't even hurt, he just, as he said, changed seats. But several people were killed because it was a very dangerous head-on collision between two trains. So Krishna protects sometimes in very dramatic ways. And it's been said that, it says here in the verse that, in the purport, that people give false protection in the form of politicians who say they're going to give protection, and others, husbands and fathers and brothers and so forth. But at the end, they all have to expire, they all have to die, and so they can give protection only for a limited period of time. And even then, the protection may not be a perfect kind of protection. It said earlier on in this chapter, I think it's in the 5th chapter, Shabdev says, Guru Nasyat, that one should not become a guru, or a husband, or a father, or a worshipful demigod, unless he can deliver the dependents from death. So that means being a parent is a great responsibility that Prabhupada goes on to explain in the purport. So if one doesn't protect one's dependents, whether they're disciples or children or subjects in a country from death, that they're not doing their job correctly. In the past, there were great Raja Rishis, who were the kings and leaders of nations, and their subjects looked to them as great protectors, just like fathers protect their young children from all sorts of dangers. The citizens in the realms of Raja Rishis felt that always they were protected. I think there's one incident that took place. It's described in the Krishna book. I think it's in the 10th canto, where someone's children died before their father died, and the citizens felt so protected by the rulers that they spoke to them, and this man spoke to Arjuna, who was a great leader in society and a great Kshatriya, complaining that a child had died before the father, which is a very unnatural thing. And there was at one point when Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister of India. People stoned her because there was a great drought in Mumbai, in Maharashtra. So the farmers descended on Mumbai and stoned her. And this is shortly after I joined the movement. I read this in the newspaper, and this man stormed into Prabhupada's room and threw a newspaper down his desk and said, "Your Prime Minister has been stoned." And Prabhupada just thought for a minute and kind of threw his head back and said in a very jolly way, he said, "Oh, that's very good." And this man said, "How can it be very good if your Prime Minister was stoned? How can that be good?" And then Prabhupada explained how people felt very protected by the monarch. And at that time, she was the Prime Minister, of course, not truly a Rajarishi, but there was a sentiment in the minds of a lot of the rural people that they should be protected, even from inclement weather, from droughts. So it was a time when their crops couldn't grow properly. And they were all upset, and so they threw rocks at her. And so after Prabhupada explained this to this man, he kind of calmed down and understood that there was a philosophical principle involved here, that people thought that their leaders should protect them, even from bad weather and from lack of rains. People always felt protected in the past by such Rajarishis. And whenever such leaders were sort of imperfectly giving protection, they were rejected. There was the case of Bali Maharaj, who rejected his guru, who was Shukracharya, for not giving him proper protection when Bali Maharaj wanted surrender to Vamana Dev. And there's the instance of Prahlad Maharaj, whose father tried to murder him. And usually fathers are protective agents. And then in a 1975 lecture, I think Prabhupada was saying how dangerous it is, because mothers are supposed to give protection to their children, but nowadays they kill them even in the womb. And there's even been instances of infants that were murdered by their mothers. So sometimes in the name of economic facility or having to forage for oneself economically, one has to commit something like abortion, and people are thought to believe that these babies are in the womb are not living beings, that there's just some kind of tissue part of the mother's body that doesn't need to be considered to be living, and therefore many people can undergo abortion and it isn't considered to be murderous. There was the case of Krishna protecting Parikshit. It's mentioned in Bhagavatam in the first canto. Parikshit was protected in the womb from the Brahmastra that was fired by, I think it was Aswatthama, who tried to abort his Parikshit because he was the last of the Pandavas, and Krishna protected him. So Krishna is always the protector. There's that mantra that Lord Chaitanya was teaching. It's written in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I think Krishna, 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 Hey, Krishna, 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 Hey. And then there's a word that means protect. What is it? Krishna, Saki, yeah. And there's a Hindi proverb that says if someone wants to kill you, no one can protect you. If Krishna wants to kill you, no one can protect you. And if Krishna wants to kill you, no one can protect you. What is that? I can't think of the Hindi. Is it Bengali? What is it? Do you know?
Rake Krishna.
Rakike? Hare Krishna, Rakike. And I think the example was given that sometimes someone is very ill, but they survive. And in that sense, Krishna protects them. And someone is very healthy and suddenly they die. And that means that Krishna is not protecting them. So in other words, if Krishna wants to protect us, we're protected even though we should die. And if Krishna wants to kill us, then even though we're very healthy and we should remain alive, we die. And sometimes that happens. We see that sometimes young children die unexpectedly, or people just suddenly die. And it can happen at any moment, unless Krishna is protecting us. I think that it was Shankaracharya, Krishna quoted someone, Prabhupada quoted someone, I think it was Shankaracharya, who said that the human being is a creature of half a breath, that sometimes there will be inhalation, sometimes there will be no exhalation. That means that death can come at any moment. So it can come at, not surprising, at any moment. So, modern politicians say they're going to protect people, at least they can be elected because they can promise they're going to be economically, they're going to make the country very healthy economically, and then they're deposed because maybe they didn't make it very healthy economically, or because someone lost their income or something like that, or because for various reasons. And it seems that at least I think John Howard, he has something like 5 terms or 4 longer terms than he was supposed to have. Sometimes, but in any case, all these leaders, with their prime ministers or presidents, they get deposed after some time because their promises seem to not be fulfilled. They seem to ring hollow in the minds of the citizens. So every 4 or 8 years, they're replaced with someone else because people they think the new person is going to relieve them and give them all kinds of success and economic benefits. And after some time, they realize that this isn't going to happen, and they elect a new person who they think is going to provide even more protection and more benefits. And they become sort of disillusioned with the prior people. But Rajarishis could give protection for many years to come. And people always felt protected by that. And they didn't have limited terms of office. They could stay in power for a long time. So the concept of protection is very important. And it's mentioned in this verse that only ultimate protection can be given by Krishna, because everyone else, whether it be a husband or a political leader or a father or a mother or a demigod, it's just temporary. It's not complete protection. It's just usually false protection or temporary protection, whereas true protection is given by Krishna. I'll read the verse again. He alone, who is never afraid, who, on the contrary, gives complete shelter to all fearful persons, can actually become a husband and protector. Therefore, my Lord, you are the only husband, and no one else can claim this position. If you were not the only husband, you would be afraid of others. Therefore, persons learned in all Vedic literature accept only your lordship as everyone's master, and they think no one else a better husband and protector than you. And the purport Prabhupada says, instead of deceiving themselves and others by pretending to be all-powerful, all political leaders, husbands and guardians, should spread the Krishna consciousness movement so that everyone can learn how to surrender to Krishna, the Supreme Husband. The implied meaning of this sentence is that unless Krishna is involved, the protection is only temporary, and that unless the true guardians can give ultimate protection to their dependents, then they have to be rejected. And it was in the case of Bali Maharaj and Sukracharya and others that sometimes this happens, that even people who pose themselves as protectors, fathers, mothers, husbands, political leaders, have to be rejected or are rejected because they don't protect people properly. And in this sense, everyone is, sometimes I say this to people who are very concerned with female liberation, that all of us are actually female according to Vedic literature. We're Prakriti, and Krishna is the only husband, so that's kind of a gender-sensitive statement. But Krishna is the only true protector, and in the sense that we're all under his protection, we're all female, because we're all under Krishna's protection. Krishna is the only true husband, according to this verse. So I think I'm going to stop here a little bit over time. I don't know if the whole time is delayed because of the delay of the deity reading, but it's time to say something or ask anything you want. Yes?
Are all these leaders and politicians actually demons in disguise?
Say it again?
Are all these leaders and politicians actually demons in disguise?
Are all the leaders actually demons in disguise? I think we could say that. That's probably an accurate statement. But in times of yore, thousands of years ago, demons were often characterized by, at least in Hindi films, they're characterized as being very fierce and looking very ugly and having very big fangs and things like that. But in actual fact, I've heard, and maybe this is Chandrasekhar or others can correct me if this isn't exactly right, but I've heard that some of the demons, like Ravana in particular, was actually a very handsome person. And sometimes we see that political leaders are very handsome, very attractive, very well spoken, very well dressed, very highly educated, and yet they're demonic because they're not protecting the people, and they're actually leading them into demonic situations. So I think it would be fair to say that they're the demons. In a sense, everyone, even all of us, are demonic if we're not fully Krishna conscious. So it's a kind of like a strange etymology to talk about demoniac behavior, demons, and demonology. In a sense, it's kind of awkward because demons become devotees. Very often we preach to people, we go in Harinam, we have restaurants, and in many ways we reach out to the public, and we don't know whether they're foolish to the expected demoniac protection from heaven. But it really doesn't matter because I suppose the Prabhupada said that we have to spend gallons of blood before one person, at least according to his verse, Krishna is the only protector. And anyone, and everything else is either temporary, imperfect, or inconsiderate of Krishna being the ultimate protector. Of course, in previous yugas, it's explained that Raja Rishis were more inclined to protect people. But even at that time, unless a person was a devotee of Krishna and considered Krishna the ultimate and only protector, that would be imperfect realization. Yes, anything else?
It's like the small Purusha role that the husband plays sometimes causes a feeling of putting Krishna aside. You should have Krishna in the centre, of course, but perhaps relationships, in a sense, we're talking about the husband, he's the master of all and supreme husband and everything, but we have to play that role to protect, to sort of like not let things get out of control sometimes, the Purusha, the small Purusha. So that sometimes it seems a bit out of balance. You may have to rebuke an attitude that's totally out of line. And unless somebody's subservient and humble enough, that can cause an imbalance in the relationship if they harbour some resentment, because you're playing that role. So, I mean, where do you, what happens in those circumstances if that imbalance occurs? Playing that role. You have to play that role. See? It's a difficult one.
Well, yeah, you're talking about playing a role, but the role should be played with Krishna as the ultimate protector and I'm his servant. That is the ultimate role.
Krishna's
and I'm a protector, but I'm a small protector. But Krishna is the big protector. It's just like for Kriti and Purusha, we're the enjoyers of our own selves or our own bodies, but we're also, and so in that sense, we're the masters of our own minds and our own bodies. But in the ultimate sense, Krishna is the complete master and the complete protector and the complete owner and the complete enjoyer. He's the complete owner, the final friend and the final enjoyer, even though we can enjoy our own bodies and our own families. But unless we also understand that Krishna is protecting myself, who am a partial enjoyer, a partial protector, then I'm imperfect. So if there's conflict, it can be resolved in that way, to know that Krishna is at the center of things. And that Krishna is the ultimate cause, the ultimate protector. I think it said somewhere that the family that prays together stays together. So the idea is that Krishna is always in the center, even though I play my roles of protector and Purusha and enjoyer and so on and so forth.
I think in this Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, he was, as a boy, removed by Bhaktivinoda Thakur for taking a mango that wasn't offered to Krishna. And from that time, of course, we're talking about a wonderful spiritual being coming down, descending for our benefit. Not a normal jiva, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, but he did, from that point, refuse to accept mangoes, even went off it later on as a sannyas and spiritual teacher. So if you're not getting that, you don't think that's sort of fantastic sort of submission, but if you're giving instruction that you think you should, as a small protector, and it's not being followed, then what do you do? Whatever that instruction may be, to try to change somebody a little bit towards the correct behaviour. When you see it's not right.
Well, I'm not an expert in social matters, but in administration it's very difficult because it's sometimes required to punish people and to put square pegs in round holes and round pegs in square holes, and sometimes people do get upset when administration takes place. And when I was on the GBC, I'm a resigned member now, it was very difficult to do that because it has to be done in administration. Even Duryodhana was said to be a very good administrator. And even Parikshit, even though he was a Rajarishi, he was prepared to kill Kali. He was drawing his sword because he was disobeying the regulative principles. So it's a very difficult position to be an administrator. And therefore, it's been said, I think it was Hari Sori once that said that in the future, the administrators of the ISKCON society would probably not be gurus and sannyasis, because gurus and sannyasis are supposed to be friendly to everyone, whereas administrators can't be. They have to punish the wrongdoers. That's necessary. So sometimes their conflicts do exist, and it's sort of unavoidable, because we have to play certain roles. But, I don't know the exact answer to all of them.
Is that so that the sannyasis and gurus have to be friendly to everyone?
They're supposed to be. Sannyasis and gurus are supposed to be friendly to everyone, according to the Bhagavad Gita and according to Srimad Bhagavatam. They're supposed to be. But not everyone can be that way. And sometimes sannyasis and gurus are in the roles of administrators, and that makes things a little difficult for them, or for everyone. Yeah. Anything else? Okay, I think we'll stop here. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
He's always Mukunda Maharaj ki jai.
This is the switch. It's not so often. It's not so often done. Yes. And also, I don't think it's good for the cable to roll it and unroll it. I don't think it's good for this cable.
Well, it's very stiff.
Or maybe it's good enough. Okay.
You know, it's a nice to me. It's
Yeah.
tell you, it's funny. I have sometimes intuition. You know, I wish that it was born. And then just a second of a few minutes before you came, I thought of it. And then came. Strange.